From moment one, Donald Trump's war in Iran was started under false pretenses. But before we even start talking about all of the lies that they've told about this war, I want to talk about the cost of the war that we know thus far, because the first 6 days alone cost American taxpayers $11.3 billion. An egregious number if it was all encompassing, but it doesn't even include the cost to repair or rebuild critical infrastructure that was damaged across the Middle East when Iran struck back, nor does it include the cost of running operations on the ground. So this is really just scratching the surface of how expensive this war has been over its first couple of weeks. And that's egregious enough if this war was justified or if we had good reason to do so. But Donald Trump continues to lie to everyone about exactly why we went there in the first place.
And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon.
One of the preeminent claims that Donald Trump and this regime continue to make about the start of the war in Iran is we had to do it to prevent them from developing nuclear weapons. It was ensuring the safety not just of Americans, but people all across the world. But here's the bottom line. There is quite literally no evidence to suggest that they were on the verge of developing anything close to a nuclear weapon that would have threatened us or anyone else. The International Atomic Energy Agency is the preeminent agency across the globe for tracking the development of weapons-grade uranium. And as of June 2025, they estimate that Iran was in possession of 441 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. That's important for two reasons. Number one, 441 kilograms is really only enough to develop 10 nuclear weapons, which is still a concerning number to develop, but they also only had 60% enriched uranium, which is not weapons grade. It needs to be enriched at 90% to actually be used to create these nuclear weapons that Donald Trump says he's so concerned about. And if you'll recall, last year during Operation Midnight Hammer, Donald Trump claims we obliterated the nuclear enrichment capabilities of Iran, striking 3 underground facilities primarily tasked with enriching this uranium to the weapons grade required to develop these nukes. So when they claim they had to do this to prevent nuclear weapon development, there's simply no evidence to suggest that Iran was even close to developing a weapon that would threaten anyone in the Middle East, much less anyone here in the United States of America.
And we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening.
One of my favorite parts about this particular lie is that it illustrates how bad Donald Trump actually is at the art of the deal. You'll recall back in 2015, Barack Obama entered us into the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. This was an Iran nuclear deal. It was signed by China, Russia, France, Germany, the UK, and ourselves, and was very effective in keeping Iran's weapons development in check. In fact, for 28 straight months under that plan, Iran committed no major infractions, and while there were minor violations found, they were immediately corrected when brought to their attention because they were being effectively monitored by the International Atomic Energy Agency. But because Donald Trump insists that he's the best deal maker that's ever existed, he pulled us out of that in 2018 and said, I will negotiate something far better, except he didn't get it done under his first term and then obviously lost in 2020. So what does he do now that he's back? He claims that he wants to make a deal with Iran, but they wouldn't come to the negotiating table. If you believe him on that, watch this clip.
The enriched material, the things that could be used as nuclear fuel for a bomb, you're saying Iran would not keep on their own soil?
They would give it up.
They would give it up?
They will not be able to actually accumulate that material that will enable them to create a bomb. There's no accumulation. So there will be zero accumulation, zero stockpiling, and full verification.
This diplomat from Oman was the direct mediator of the negotiations between the United States and Iran, and this was just days before Donald Trump launched the first missiles at Iran. They were willing to give up their enriched uranium. They were willing to give up anything they had that could have even started them on the path of nuclear weapons development. And what's even more hilarious about this is that back in 2013, before he ever ran for president, while Barack Obama was still trying to negotiate this deal with Iran that we got pulled out of, Donald Trump said, Barack will strike Iran because he's such a bad negotiator. And yet, here we are in 2026 with Donald Trump completing that self-fulfilling prophecy.
Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland.
He said he wants to protect American citizens, but in the immediate aftermath, the early hours of this war starting, the State Department urged American citizens in the Middle East to call them for assistance. When they called for that assistance, they got a pre-recorded message that said, "Do not rely on the United States government for any assistance or evacuation planning." In essence, they were being stranded by their own State Department who said, "Call us, we're just not going to help you." And to make matters even worse, Donald Trump refuses to rule out a draft, and he refuses to rule out boots on the ground, saying all options are still on the table. Now, I don't know about you, but drafting men and women into a war that we didn't have to start is quite literally the antithesis of taking care of American citizens and protecting us, one of the claims that he has made repeatedly about this war. Even senators on Capitol Hill are concerned.
I have emerged from classified briefings deeply concerned and very fearful that we're on the precipice not only of an escalating conflict in that region, but also our putting American troops on the ground, our sons and daughters in harm's way, because that is almost inevitably the path that the administration has chosen by its current tactical approach.
It's not like we have to forecast that this could harm American citizens. 7 service members have been confirmed by the Pentagon as killed as part of this war. 8 others have been seriously injured, and nearly 150 have been hurt in total as a result of the retaliatory strikes by Iran on military installations across the Middle East after we struck them first. And then you have the concern about Iranian sleeper cells, which Donald Trump himself brought up just the other day, saying, "We're on top of it, guys. We know exactly what's going on. You don't have to worry about it. We're watching them very closely," except every other aspect of this war has been a lie. So why would you believe him when he tells you you're safe here in America from sleeper cells? And the final point I'll make about this is that it's not just American citizens that are concerned about this. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill have been participating in closed-door sessions that they emerge from with no better understanding of why this war started, what our plan was, or if we are ever going to exit at all. We appear to have been plunged into another regime change, endless war in the Middle East, and even when Donald Trump gets on calls with global leaders, they don't know what's happening either. The reality is they have lied to us from moment one about the start of this war and why we went there. It's not about protecting us from nukes. It's not about negotiating deals. It's not even about protecting American citizens. Donald Trump has no plan. Donald Trump has no exit strategy, and there is no reason that we should have entered this war.